started, I did want to kick off with a safety message, and then we'll call the roll. Okay, Brandy?
That sounds good.
So as we're into fall, I just thought it would be good to remind everyone of a few kind of fall yard cleanup tips. As I imagine a lot of us are raking leaves and getting the house winterized for the colder months. But it is a good reminder as you're doing kind of the yard work, the fall cleanup, all those things, to make sure that you have all your PPE. When you're out there working, it's a good idea to check all of your equipment. Make sure you've got, you may not have used some of the stuff for about a year. It's good to make sure everything's running properly before you actually get into your work. But most importantly, I always think it's a good reminder for myself, especially when you're blowing leaves and all that kind of stuff, to make sure you have gloves, eye and ear protection as you're doing that. So I know in the nuclear industry, PPE is kind of a way of life, but it's always good to take that home with you when you're doing that kind of work, and remember to use that around the house as well. So with that, we have a good agenda today. We appreciate BWXT joining us for an update on kind of advanced reactors, but we have a new member and some renominations. So as we get into that, Brandy, I think we need to go ahead and call the roll. I know you said we have a quorum, but we'll verify that. So when Brandy calls your name, if you can just confirm that you are here so we can record that we have a quorum for votes later on. So Brandy?
Thank you, Tom. Jeff Fox?
Yes, here.
Ken Ball?
Here.
Calvin Lowe? I think I saw him. Eric Carr? Director Davis?
Here.
Ronnie Smith?
Here.
Tom DePonte?
Here.
Rich Diddums, which I did not see. Craig Piercy?
Here.
Scott Koppel?
Here.
Mary Newmar?
Here.
Randy Heflin?
Here.
I did not see. Gary Tepper?
Here.
Brian Vella?
Here.
April Wade?
Here.
And other parties on the call, I have Matt Gladfelter from the SEC, David Essa, Joshua Parker from BWXT, who is our guest speaker, Michael Hetfield from Wise County. Is there anyone else that I've forgotten or missed on the call? I think that's everybody.
I think Julianne's on as well, Brandy.
Julianne, thank you for that.
No problem. Great. So we do have a quorum. I did want to acknowledge before we get to Josh, Scott Koppel and Eric Carr from BWXT and Dominion, respectively, have been reappointed to the authority. Thank you for serving another term to both of you. And I do want to welcome Craig Piercy. I think a lot of us know Craig, but he is the CEO of the American Nuclear Society and is stepping into Gene's role as the ANS representative. So Craig, welcome. Feel free to reach out to Brandy, myself, or anyone else on the authority if you have questions about kind of our roles and responsibilities. But thank you for stepping in and filling that slot. We're happy to have you.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I would like to turn to our guest speaker. Josh Parker is the Senior Director of Advanced Fuels at BWXT. We had talked to Josh about kind of a general kind of advanced reactors and fuel update, as I think we've talked about in past meetings with some of the member announcements, but a lot of exciting things going on at BWXT. So Josh has a long history and career in the industry. Used to be a colleague of mine at Framatome before he went over across town to BWXT. So Josh, welcome. And I think, yep, your slides are up. So we will give you the floor.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thanks for the kind introduction. So good to see you again. Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. Let's go to the next slide. So I get to travel a lot. I get the privilege of sitting on planes and telling people I'm a nuclear engineer, and I actually sell nuclear reactors and nuclear fuel. And they say sometimes, wouldn't it be nice if we still made those? It's kind of fun to say we actually still do. So BWXT, as you may or may not know, is the company that manufactures the subs, the reactors for the subs and the aircraft carriers. So every submarine, every aircraft carrier that's steaming in the United States Navy today is powered by a BWXT reactor. We're a newer name for a very old company. Our history goes back to the 1850s and the water tube boiler developed by Stephen Wilcox and George Babcock way over there on the left. So we've been in energy for well over 160 years. We supplied the boiler to Thomas Edison's Menlo Park facility up there. Wonderful letter we sent him, and then he wrote back, the finest boiler God has allowed man to make. We've achieved 50,000 horsepower. That enabled us to get into the U.S. Navy, being able to make very safe, reliable boilers. Teddy Roosevelt's Great White Fleet steamed around the world with Babcock and Wilcox boilers. I think it's about 80% of the fleet in Tokyo Bay at the end of World War II was Babcock and Wilcox boilers. So needless to say, following World War II, when this gentleman named Admiral Rickover had this idea of using nuclear energy to power submarines, he came knocking on Babcock and Wilcox's door, said, "We'd like you to be in it." And our first answer was no. Our second answer was no also. And then the third time, he bypassed the executives, went straight to the board of directors, closed the door, and all of a sudden, Babcock and Wilcox was in the nuclear business. By 1954, we had built components for the USS Nautilus. There in the front of the picture. And by 1956, we had built a dedicated facility for nuclear reactors for both submarines, future aircraft carriers, as well as the establishment of commercial fleet applications here in Lynchburg, Virginia. That facility was opened in May of 1956. And if you didn't know, that's kind of the parent facility of why Framatome exists in Lynchburg and BWXT exists in Lynchburg. Is in 1993, Babcock and Wilcox sold their commercial business to Framatome. So Tom mentioned me going across the street. That's why Lynchburg is such a hotbed of nuclear technology here. Since then, we have done multiple developments inside of advanced reactors. We're here today to talk about terrestrial ones, but we've worked in space reactors, research reactors. We supply fuel to the 5 high-performance research reactors in the United States. And today we're building reactors for the Department of Defense outside of the U.S. Navy for Project Pele and looking at commercial applications of microreactors as well. So next slide, please. This is just an overview of our footprint across the United States. Of course, we're headquartered here in Lynchburg, Virginia, have a strong home and well over 3,000 employees kind of in this area here. We have offices across multiple joint ventures, either management operations of Department of Energy sites such as Idaho National Lab, or doing environmental cleanup such as down at the Savannah River site. We have 6 major manufacturing sites in the United States: Lynchburg, Virginia, Erwin, Tennessee, Barberton, Ohio, Mount Vernon, Indiana, Euclid, Ohio, and now Jonesboro, Tennessee as well. And they're totaling well over 3 million square feet of manufacturing here in the United States, and then another almost 1.25 million square feet of manufacturing in Canada as well. And Cambridge, Ontario is our largest nuclear grade clean room where we can make big pressure vessels. So large footprint, large capability inside the United States as well as North America across what we can service both for the defense industry as well as for the commercial nuclear industry. Next slide. We're here today to talk about advanced reactors. So we have several programs ongoing in terms of terrestrial advanced reactors. Most people have probably heard of Project Pele. It started in 2020 with a design competition to design a modular mobile microreactor, something that fits in a 20-foot ISO container. BWXT was part of the initial design program. We got down selected for final design, and we eventually got down selected in 2023 for the actual build of the reactor. It is under construction today in Lynchburg, Virginia. So we are building a reactor that fits in a 20-foot ISO container. Lots of challenges in that the U.S. military came out in the Strategic Capabilities Office to set those requirements here. As you can see, it's a horizontal reactor as opposed to a vertical one. That's a lot of challenges when you start to think about that. It fits in a 20-foot ISO container. One of my chief engineers loves to wander by my office and say that is the hardest design requirement he's ever had to have, is to cram everything into a small box. The idea behind this is it provides about 1 to 5 megawatts of electrical generation for the U.S. military, meant to take the place of a diesel genset in a forward operating location. If you look at a lot of the casualties and a lot of the issues when we looked at Iraq and Afghanistan, you have this logistics tail of delivering diesel fuel to those areas. Pele is supposed to remove that. It gives you 3 years of energy inside that box. There's no diesel supply chain here. What we see is that it won't operate in a forward operating base. It will operate a couple of rows behind. It'll still remove the logistics tail, and the U.S. military is still highly interested in it for the operational energy aspects. Y'all may be familiar with the Janus program that was just announced by the U.S. Army under Jeff Waxman's position up there, where they're looking at operational and installation energy. So Project Pele, those small reactors that fit in the 1 to 5 megawatt type category, definitely are forward looking for operational energy, everything from forward looking radar to bases in the Pacific where you need energy on demand without a logistics tail. It's meant to be transportable in a multi-mode situation, truck, train, and actually airplane. And if you look back, shipping of nuclear reactors or even nuclear fuel is something that hasn't went on in this country in a long time. We have just finished the fuel for this, and I mentioned we are building the reactor here, and the fuel will get shipped to Idaho National Lab very shortly. And I'll talk more about TRISO fuel a little later that we manufacture here in Lynchburg. Next slide. So BWXT saw a need for a larger version of Pele, if you will. Pele is a high temperature gas reactor. It uses TRISO fuel. Banner, or the BWXT Advanced Nuclear Reactor, takes and leverages that and scales it up. It's no longer modular. It's still modular, but it's no longer mobile. As you can see in the image here, it's a fixed installation. It's currently sized at 22 megawatts electric, 75 megawatts thermal. It's flexible power generation, electricity, heat, cogeneration. We found commercial viability of this in regards to a cogen set with a mine in southwest Wyoming. Specifically, they mine trona, which is the mineral that you end up making soda ash out of. And soda ash is a huge demand around the world because we all have these things, and then batteries are needing glass. And soda ash is the precursor to making glass throughout the world. It's both an off-grid and on-grid solution. It works inside of a U.S. grid in certain locations where either energy is constrained or there needs to be a heat load. It would also work in defense installations where you need resilient, reliable power. Once again, the Janus program with the U.S. Army has looked at this for base installations. And even earlier this year, there was an RFI through the U.S. Navy, which heavily focused on installations here in Virginia, needing base power as well. They picked 7 locations on the eastern seaboard. 4 of those were in Virginia. So we see a large demand in this market here for energy in this kind of bite-sized, incrementally added chunk here as well. So lots of capabilities. We also see it for data centers, but only specific data centers. And Virginia has a lot of familiarity with data centers. Data centers come in all sizes. We hear in the news about these big gigawatt scale data centers for AI. Those are going to need power, but those are going to need power with SMRs or large reactors up in those sizes. There's kind of the mid-scale data centers, which are a few hundred megawatts. Banner would kind of fit for those. And then there's edge scale data centers. So when you actually get on your phone or get on your computer, you're actually interfacing with an edge scale data center, usually very close to where you are actually at. That way your cat memes get to you a lot faster. And those are on the tens of megawatts, 10 to 20 megawatts. So you can see that those tailor in quite well for micro reactors as well for edge data center operations. So we have engagement out there, continue to look at this and how that would be deployed, both in Virginia for some certain applications, as well as within the United States and North America. So you can't have reactors without fuel. So I'll talk a little bit about nuclear fuels. Let's go to the next slide. So BWXT has been manufacturing TRISO fuel for over 20 years. In 2003, we had a Department of Energy program to become their industrial partner under the Advanced Gas Reactor program that they had to stand up the capability to manufacture TRISO fuel. So for the past nearly over 20 years, we've been standing up this capability. The DOE calls it the most robust fuel on Earth. The idea behind TRISO fuel is it's made up with a kernel of uranium, in this case, uranium oxycarbide. It has a buffer layer of carbon around that uranium. It's actually a little bit spongy, takes the heat as uranium expands and contracts. And it also has interstitial voids. So when you fission uranium, you actually produce some gas, and that goes into that buffer layer there, the big gray layer in the center of this image. Then the tri comes from the 3 layers on the outside, an inner pyrolytic carbon layer, a silicon carbide layer, and an outer pyrolytic carbon layer. And all of that gets wrapped up into something the size of a poppy seed. So just to kind of give an example, I don't know if anybody can see that there, of what that looks like. And that encapsulates the nuclear fuel and the fission products. So on any bad day of any advanced reactor using TRISO fuel, that is the be end all stop of getting fission products not getting into the public and the safety basis there. So everybody remembers the Simpsons big concrete containment structure. We have those on our reactors for light water reactors today. What we've done is engineered a fuel product that layer is now at the size of a poppy seed and contains the fuel and the fission products during normal operations as well as off normal operations. So we've been manufacturing that fuel. If you look in the upper right, those are actually Project Pele fuel. We take about 10,000 of the TRISO particles and we put them into a right cylindrical form. So just kind of holding it up here. No, that is not uranium. That is a plastic one, but it's the same size as those in the upper right picture here that we made for Project Pele. And we fabricate those. Those will get loaded. They're getting ready to be shipped to Idaho National Lab. I would expect an announcement here in the next couple of months that that's been successful. So that capability there is here in Lynchburg, Virginia. We manufacture that today. We're actually manufacturing product for a couple of other advanced reactors out there that's not specific, but helping with deployment of those as they begin to go through their cycle here to stand up and demonstrate as well. Large amount of capability. We continue to expand our fuel capability as well in Lynchburg. We actually built a 10,000 square foot facility over here to the left to continue expanding nuclear fuel capabilities here in Lynchburg. And we continue to look at how we can grow and meet the advanced reactor market and the demand that we see out in the industry for these in the future, as advanced reactors really kind of turn the curve and come online here in the early 2030s. So that's a little bit of micro reactors, Project Pele, Banner, as well as TRISO. Next slide, please. So, and I will stop here. I think I had about 15 minutes, and let anybody ask questions that you may have.
Does anyone have questions? If you want to raise your hand. Thank you, Josh. That was great. It's really good to see all the progress you all are making.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll kick it off with just a question of, Josh, you mentioned how you spend a lot of time on a plane around the country talking and selling reactors and fuel and all the different things, but I know you probably also have a lot of opportunity to interact with communities. As this, authority spends a lot of our time kind of helping to advise the legislature and the governor's office on how we can assist communities and prepare them for nuclear in Virginia. What are you finding in terms of both the interest level in kind of new nuclear, especially advanced nuclear, and also, what are the types of questions or comments that you're getting when you're out there in the field?
Sure. First thing is always waste. Waste comes up every discussion that you have out in the public. And the U.S. doesn't have a good solution, final solution. We interimly store it with the reactors today. That's working really well, dry cask storage. But, a lot of people feel that sometimes the federal government's let them down in other ways, and then they're going to let them down in nuclear waste instead of taking it and making the ultimate final disposal. That's usually the primary discussion topic. The second is just understanding reactors. There's usually just some general interest out there trying to understand what is this, why advanced reactors. By the way, advanced reactors are not new. I have a book on my shelf back here from 1956. You can go and find a high temperature gas reactor. You can find a molten salt reactor. You can find a liquid sodium fast reactor. So why do we have all these new nuclear? I thought I get questions. Why didn't we just settle with light water reactors? The reason, in the 1950s and 40s when we tried this, it didn't work, was usually a materials problem. And what we've got is the Defense Department and aerospace and automotive and other industries have advanced materials to a point where the nuclear industry is pulling those back in and making advanced reactors possible. So getting to tell them a little bit of the history of why high temperature gas reactors or a liquid sodium reactor like TerraPower is now a viable thing, even though we tried it in the past, had some things that didn't go well in terms of materials. Not that it wasn't nuclear, it was just corrosion and other things. And we've got new materials that enable this are out there. The other thing I find in engaging communities is people just want to work in the nuclear sector. They find it interesting. I get tons of, I got a stack of business cards here of people who want to sell me stuff. They want to be a part of nuclear in some way, shape, or form. And that's kind of interesting. So you get a lot of interest in that. They just want to know. They want to know, can they support you? They want to know, can they support other programs? And that's been kind of key as well. So I think those are kind of the three major topics that I run into when I get out in public and engage the public in general.
That's great. Other questions, or I have one more, but I'll defer to the group. So, Josh, obviously, we spend a lot of time kind of in the policy arena, and I think Virginia has led in a lot of these, especially with the creation of the authority and the VNEC board and the strategic plans and a lot of the areas in policy that Virginia has taken a lot of great first steps compared with other states. But now I know you're out in other parts of the country and other states are starting to take their own actions. Is there anything you've seen in other states policy wise that would be good examples or lessons or things that Virginia could draw from?
That's a good question. I've seen it in a couple of different places of how it's taking place across the nation. If you look at it in different regions and different states, it's being led. North Carolina gave Duke, well, actually any utility, the right to recover, expended funds on looking at advanced reactors. So the PSC, PUCs in some states are actually taking action to say, we're interested in this. We want to drive some policy through them. That's coming out. There's been engagement in the Louisiana PSC and possibly doing something like that. You see states like Texas, Utah, Tennessee, Wyoming offering incentives for companies to attract them out there. Not so much policy, but really saying, hey, we're open for business. We're going to try to make this attractive for you to come to those states is kind of key. In some instances, they've corrected some of their policies. You look back, Alaska did some changes there to kind of proactively look for a micro reactor market that might serve the far north, and made some legislative changes. Wyoming's made some legislative changes. We see some things out of Kentucky moving that way as well. Just taking a holistic look across your state books, and some of them just took a broad look and said, what do we need to fix? And they kind of put that all together into one piece of legislation that kind of just fixed all the little nuances to say, okay, now we're kind of aligned to make sure we can get this out and go through with nuclear. And, like one thing in Wyoming was just the fact that they had a spent waste policy that would have prevented TerraPower from actually going there. They got that cleaned up to make sure that was allowed. So different states are playing in different ways and trying to see how they can participate in new nuclear. I think my statement I usually tell a lot of people in the states is there's 80 companies out there in advanced nuclear. So every last one of them may want something different. So make sure you're getting a good breadth of the voices across nuclear if you are making changes or considering changes, and not just looking at one specific instance there. Try to solve where the whole fleet benefits. So.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from other members?
Maybe this is Mary Newmeyer. Maybe one related question, Tom, if it's okay.
Yeah.
One thing I have noticed is that some of the states are really starting to collaborate together a little bit more. So one example is Idaho, Utah, Wyoming. And it made me think, are there areas where it makes sense for states to collaborate, maybe to help kind of address some of those issues certain issues in a more uniform way? Or do you see that could be something that would make sense more broadly than it's occurring now?
I think there is some benefit to that with like-minded states wanting to collaborate. And you mentioned Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, and it's funny, they also looped in Louisiana. So you don't think of Louisiana, the Intermountain West there as well. Part of that was put on by INL's Frontiers Initiative that was led by Steve Allmeyer up there, and kind of trying to draw like-minded states together to kind of push both the frontier. He was in the Intermountain West, but it was open to any state that was looking at the frontier of nuclear and what it could mean for national security and energy security. And I think there is some pooling that could go on there and some lessons learned across multiples of those states as well.
Great. Any other questions? Well, Josh, thank you so much for joining us and the great presentation and Q&A. We really appreciate it. And if there's anything the authority can be doing to support BWXT. You've got your representative in Scott, but don't hesitate to reach out anytime, and really appreciate you joining us.
All right. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. All right, Glenn, let's get you up next in case you have to drop off.
Sure, no, appreciate it. A lot of good stuff going on in nuclear, and we have 3 months left in this administration. The good news is whoever becomes governor, both of them are very supportive of nuclear. So the expectation is that Governor Youngkin's agenda is going to continue moving forward with the support of all of you, and Virginia will still continue to lead the way in nuclear. Some things that may be of interest to everyone. First is things are still moving forward on the AEP and Dominion's territory. So we know about the announcement at North Anna with Dominion. That's still moving forward, and hopefully an announcement soon on technology. Same thing with the AEP. They announced Joshua Falls, and that's moving forward. Hopefully an announcement here shortly on technology, and that one coming. We have been working very closely with DoD. You know about the RFIs with the Navy and the Army. The one thing they both have in common is neither one of them were assigned money to do anything with a reactor behind the fence line. But we have been involved in some partnerships for compute data centers that would go on base that would actually help fund the SMR on there as well. So there's some great conversations going on. And hopefully, as we all saw back in the day when the first RFI came out with the Navy, they chose 7 Navy facilities or Marine Corps facilities in the U.S. 4 of them were in Virginia, and there still is a huge focus in Virginia. We are excited. The Virginia Power Innovation Fund put out a award or an RFP or grant RFP for an award to help move forward on bringing supply chain and workforce development to the Commonwealth of Virginia. That has since closed. Hopefully the award will be named in about the next 10 days. So we're very excited about that. Then some of y'all were there. What was the Virginia Renewable Energy Alliance? We're very excited. Through some help with Brandy in our office and Vince, who is our SEO, we incented them to change their name. They are no longer the Renewable Energy Alliance. They're now the Clean Energy Alliance. We promised them some help and their first nuclear sponsor for their last thing. So TerraPower came into town and actually sponsored it to show that nuclear is involved in clean and does want to be a part of this this changeover. And then they had their first main nuclear session on the main stage during that conference. So that was kind of exciting. And we had TerraPower there along with Dominion, AEP. I moderated it and had a great scenario there. To talk about what Mary mentioned, the multi-state collaboration. Virginia has been a part of the NASIO early movers, and where we have found collaboration through that is when you have a commonality of utility. So we all know the states don't buy the SMRs, they don't pay for the SMRs. The ultimate decision, is typically made by the utility or in large part with the off-taker, since as we're seeing now, a lot of these off-takers, i.e. the hyperscalers, are going to pay for a significant amount of that capital cost. But the state usually is not involved. So what we did is we got a number of states that all have AEP together. So us, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and started bringing us together to how there can be some consistency there and make sure that all the states are lined up. So hopefully when AEP makes the announcement of an SMR placement, we're hoping the first one's in Virginia, obviously, that they hit nth of a kind very quickly on a manufacturer by not just doing maybe a 12-pack in Virginia or 4-pack in Virginia, but maybe it's multiple 4-packs pretty quickly, and then they can get to nth of a kind on a technology. So we're working with a number of states inside the AEP corridor on that. Obviously a lot of interest in supply chain. We are talking to a number of entities overseas on what it would take to get them over here. It's a kind of a chicken or the egg. There's a lot of interest in manufacturing domestically, a lot of it driven by President Trump's tariffs. They realize that they can save a lot of money by manufacturing here, but it's a chicken or an egg. They're waiting for the order book to be developed so they can come over here and develop onshore manufacturing. So we're working with them, and hopefully one will get the other here pretty quickly. And then lastly is gearing up for legislation next year. There's a couple pieces of legislation that the governor, we're putting together with the governor. One of them is nuclear in the RPS. Basically treat nuclear the same way you treat a solar electron. We're talking with Democrats and Republicans. There are people at the senior level that want to solve this $5.5 billion in RPS costs. Basically, to go out and buy RECs. If they actually put existing nuclear in the RPS, the same way as solar is, that $5.5 billion on the ratepayer goes away. There were some great conversations during this session. The elections got in the way of this. So as we go into next year, those conversations are being had. But what I would hope next year is we actually put new and existing nuclear on the same level as all of the clean electrons that are being developed in Virginia. So that's kind of where we are focused in Virginia right now. And obviously, as things move forward with y'all, if there's anything we can do to help better the landscape, please reach out and let us know.
Great. Hey, Glenn or Brandy, I made a note while you were talking there. I think it may be interesting for us to have someone from NASIO at a future meeting kind of talk about the early mover program. I had noted that way back when. So that might be something we can just add to the list of potential speakers, because that's an interesting program. And obviously Virginia being a part of it is great. So any other questions?
Maybe Tom, more of a comment, and just to Glenn, I think it's commendable just how much is going on, and sort of, catching the tiger by its tail, which is going on nationally and also here in Virginia. So really it's more of a comment, but to the credit to the team, on the state side, for all you guys are doing. And, there's more of it's a push, not so much as us on the industry side pulling, which is the way it had been for many years. I think many of us can, I see heads nodding that it's been that way. So really just more of an appreciation for what's going on in the state and in the leadership, really. So hats off. So.
Oh, thank you. I can tell you, it makes it easy when we go someplace and we talk about Lynchburg and we talk about VNEC. I mean, there are states that are now finally putting together their version of VNECA, right? And, they're just getting around to it, and y'all been together forever. And, we talk about the hub, of nuclear is in Virginia with Lynchburg. So y'all make it very easy to promote Virginia. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, Josh, I didn't want to, it would be sort of odd for me to comment or ask Josh a question even, but as part of other states, it has been, that's something that's not lost on us, Glenn, that comment. And there were a lot of states that set up, different, I'll call boards or commissions, and what they've really been is listening sessions to figure out if they want to be in the nuclear, business in some way as a state. Almost a feeling out process to see what's out there, and credit to them for doing that. But a lot of it's not nowhere near as advanced as the states come along. So just credit to you all for being part of that equation. So.
Glenn, can I ask one kind of, I guess it's sort of a logistical question. You mentioned the 3 months left with this governor. I don't want to assume, but I would. Does Energy put together kind of a transition document or anything for the next incoming governor, or anything? And is there anything you would want from VNEC or VNECA to kind of include in that?
So yes, so there will be a transition. It's up to the incoming governor how they want to do this. I chaired the transition team for IT and cybersecurity for Youngkin when he came in. So I got heavily involved in those aspects and met with the existing teams. I would expect the same thing to happen inside of commerce and trade, and then in energy. I would suspect that the new governor, right after they get elected, will kind of name their ideal cabinet very quickly, and then have some transition people assigned. So, and I've told people, I don't want to assume that if the Republicans elected, I stay, and I don't want to assume that if the Democrats elected, I go. I know there's some people on both sides of the aisle advocating that we don't change certain things in certain agencies, and energy is one of them. But there will be a transition piece that I think handing off the relationships will be very important. And so I think y'all will be a big part of that.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for Glenn? Oh, okay. Great.
Tom,
Thank you.
there was a number that dialed on, so I
Oh,
just
yep.
want to get them to identify who they are. Can the number at 650-270, can you identify yourself?
Hi, my name is Anna Rivas Thomas. I am a policy analyst with the Commission of Electric Utility Regulation. I tried joining in through the Teams meeting, but for some reason it wasn't letting me in, and so I just joined by
Okay,
phone.
great. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome. All right, April, you're up.
Good morning, everyone. First, I just want to touch base on the question about state interaction. We are also part of the Southeast Nuclear Council, and that is a group with Southeast states that have been coming together. They're actually doing more and more to find ways that we can all work together. One of those examples I gave you earlier this year when we did responded to a DOE RFP regarding workforce. So we're continuing to work with the Southeast Nuclear Council. So I think in the next few months, you'll be hearing more activities with them that we're working on. So, and I mean, I don't always brag, but most of these states that we mention always call us. So to model about what we're doing. And as far as I know, there still isn't a partnership like we have here in Virginia with the authority and then the working arm with VNEC. And so that's still something that they're working out. And I know some of you all know Soupy from VCU. He has now left and went to go work for Utah. So I definitely talk to them out there a lot now. So on their organization. But on to more of our activities. The strategic plan is, I'm just waiting on an email to confirm a couple of facts, and it is final. It'll be done. And then we will be sending out a press release early next week. And we'll be able to include that in our the VNECA report for the end of year report. So that will be coming out here next week. Just like I said, I'm just waiting for just to finalize it. There's a couple of bullet points of just facts that I need to confirm with one of the companies. So we have that going on. With the strategic plan, as soon as that is final, I'm right now working on an implementation plan of action items, activities that we will take to put some of these goals that we put in place to move forward in the next 4 years. The next thing we've been working on is the Nuclear 101s. They have been really successful. We did one in Southwest Virginia in Wise. We had about 80 people attend that meeting. It was a good event. We had people from economic development, county officials. We even had opposition in the room. The feedback we got at the end of the day from the opposition was very positive on our presentation. So we were very excited about that. We did a mini 101 at George Mason as they did their announcement on the NuScale Exploration Center at their fuse off building. The nuclear and NuScale put in there a state-of-the-art simulator reactor control room. If you haven't been there, it's really an amazing building, and NuScale did a great job in putting that together. That the simulator reactor room control room. It's really cool. So we've done that, and then right now we're working in putting together. We've been doing a webinar series for our Nuclear 101. In September, we held a panel, and that was just putting the case of why we need nuclear and why we need it here in Virginia. In October, we talked about the basics of nuclear energy and reactor technologies and the challenges we face. In November, we will be talking about the full life cycle, exploring projects and community engagement and benefits to the communities. And in December, our webinar will be focusing on what's happening here in Virginia. We have partnered up with Nuclear Innovation Alliance and Clean Air Task Force to do these events. I do have video. I will probably I have to edit them. I don't, but I will be posting those on our website at some point so people can go there for reference. But we plan to keep this Nuclear 101 program and keep building it up. We are being asked more and more to come in and speak to communities to tell them about what is happening in the industry. It's that time of year again that we are preparing for the legislature. Glenn mentioned that. Our two focus areas for this legislature is workforce development and funding for VinHub. In 2023, a vehicle bill passed for nuclear energy workforce development. We did not have a plan. We are finalizing that plan right now. So we will be going in to see if we can put some budget money for workforce development here in Virginia during this session. And VinHub is a 501c3, VNEC is a 501c6. Our relationship is, that we will help continue helping them with funding. So we will be going to the legislature also with funding, asking for funds for VinHub to get for some projects they're working on. And I'll talk about VinHub in just a minute. So I've talked about that next week we'll have a press release for the strategic plan. And those are the big things that we have going on right now, just really preparing for the legislature. So it's going to be I'm just waiting for April. I'm looking forward to April being around. This is a long session. Oh, and there's one other thing that we'll be doing this year that's different, that we usually include ANS students that come to the legislature, which we still will do, but we're going to have an ANS day at the legislature this year. And so we're working on with the Virginia ANS organization. We're working with them to develop communications out to their members. And it'll probably be the last week of January. I don't have a date yet, but we'll be getting information about that out to members too.
Great. Any questions for April on the VNEC portion before we get into VinHub? Okay. And Jeff Witt is traveling, so April's going to provide the VinHub update as well.
Yeah, these are his slides, so I'm just kind of going to work off what I know here. So the projects activities that they have, Virginia Energy has provided funding for the nuclear materials and reliability study, and also funds for looking at a research and education reactor facility for here in Virginia. There's two working groups working on that, developing a plan and a plan and also a business plan for these two initiatives. They also are working on a workforce study. They did the first phase. It was a great step. It showed exactly what pretty much I think everybody on this call knows on the skilled labor that our needs are. The second phase, they're implementing that right now and working on that with companies and gathering information on more specific needs for the industry. They are also looking at a project in Southwest Virginia with WISE and evaluating a roadmap, what the community would need to do to deploy and for a reactor to be in that community. So those are really the projects that they're working on. Jeff is doing a great job. I'm excited. I'm so glad to have him taking on these initiatives. On the research reactor facility, the team has gone to Missouri, Pennsylvania, NC State to look at other research reactors, and really they're doing a really good job of putting together a business plan of what we could be doing here in Virginia. So that's just the quick and what they are up to. He's sorry he couldn't be here. Bob Bailey is helping him with all these projects, and I know he'll be on the call in about 10 minutes, but those are the things that they're working on right now.
Great. Any questions? I'm not sure we can always wait for Bob if we have specific questions on VinHub activities. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the annual report. Brandy had sent out the draft report with the meeting notice. With the meeting notice. I have a couple comments, but I'll open up to the group. Are there comments, changes, or additions to the report? Scott, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just to, I guess, edit and then a comment that will lead to editing. So on page, I guess it's page 3, goals and activities. Just maybe this is nitpicky, but I think it's an important word. So 4B, I think it should read and expand new nuclear assets. Just the word expand. So for whatever reason, that jumped at me. That makes sense?
Yep,
I guess to Tom and Brandy,
that's good.
assuming no one
Great.
objects. And then, I mean, maybe someone does, and they're allowed to. So, and then on page 4, I think we need to say what the VinHub is. We introduced Jeff, and that's great, and Jeff's terrific and big fan. But I think it would be nice to have just a what is VinHub? You know,
I actually started that because I agree with that. Let
Yeah.
me show you what I share the.
And Brandy, while you're looking for that, just so one of the comments, and I know I've talked to April and Jeff about this. So typically we will, April will have kind of the VNEC report that's included as the appendix. We're also going to add a VinHub kind of report now to the standing items. So that'll be part of, I think we'll have it as appendix B along with the VNEC report. So that can have some more details on their activity. But I agree, it would be great if we wanted to put a little blurb just because it's kind of introducing it for the first time.
Yeah, and that was a point that I was going to bring up was because Jeff had sent over some notes that he wanted me to try and weave in, and I was going to request having a separate report. I think it would just make more sense. So the main report would be the body of the Venica activities, and we might even move this piece out completely if we add that to the VinHub report.
Yeah, and I'm, as the person who raised it, I'm fine with that approach, and I think we need to highlight the VinHub. So however it's done in the report, works for me.
Yeah, I would recommend.
It just seemed like it was something that's missing, and again, the current draft. So that.
But in the document, in the beginning of the document, and I don't have it open in front of me, but can we just put after we explain what VinHub or VNECA, it should have a brief explanation what VNECA is, and then the family tree of VNEC and VinHub, and then go into the goals and activities and stuff.
I like that.
I can develop something like that. And
then when it makes more sense when our reports are at the end. So there's just
Yep. Okay.
And I did talk to Jeff yesterday about that. So Brandy, I will clarify with him, and I know you guys had an email conversation, but I'll go back to them about putting that, what you had, and putting that more in a report format.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. So that was, I had 2 comments. The first was just to let everybody know that we will add in appendix B the VNEC report and a VinHub report now, and that will be an annual addition to the document. We've always had the VNEC report, but we'll also put in the VinHub, which I think will be helpful. Then, Brandy, if you go back up to page, I guess it would be page 5. My one comment, so we have under the key activities, we have presentations, we have the meeting activities and asset inventory. I think we should add another section just for the updated strategic plan, because I think, and just indicate, well, this would actually be, I think, under presentations. Let's put a new section kind of in the blue bold Because I think this is a standalone activity that we should highlight. So yeah, so after, it would come after the October 25th. So we talk about the update to the strategic plan, then I think it should be just a new section called updated strategic plan. And then, I would propose just that, we say VNECA in coordination with VNEC, something to the effect of VNECA in coordination with VNEC updated the 4-year strategic plan, and then we can include, I think then as Appendix D, the actual strategic plan.
Okay.
I just think it makes it highlights that, and then so it's not just coming, people don't miss it as Appendix D. And then that was the other comment, is we have the finalized strategic plan next week. Let's add that as Appendix D.
Okay. All right, I have that, and I will make that change. What I'm planning to do is make that change, recirculate, and excuse me, we might need to have another meeting, a brief meeting, just to vote on approval of the final version before the November 15th circulation.
I think we can actually, well, before we do that, were there other comments from the authority on changes or additions to the annual report? Okay. What we've done in the past, because I think we've already had our limit on virtual meetings, I think, for the year. So I think what makes sense and what we've done in the past, unless there's an objection, we can entertain a motion to approve the annual report subject to the changes we've discussed here. If there's no objections from the group, that way we can kind of expedite that process, and Brandy can send out the final that will then go to everyone. So can I can't make the motions. Okay. Can I get a motion from the group, and then we can do a recorded vote?
I can make the motion that we adopt the report subject to the changes we've discussed. Approve the
Second.
Do I have a
report.
second?
Yeah, I'll second Brian Villa.
Great. And then Brandy, I think we have to do a roll call vote.
Yeah. When I call your name, please, I or I. Jeff Fox,
Aye.
Ken Ball,
Aye.
Director Davis. Did he drop? Julianne, can you?
Aye.
Ronnie Smith,
Yes.
Tom DePonte,
Yes.
Craig Piercy,
Aye.
Scott Koppel,
Aye.
Bandy Heflin,
Aye.
Gary Tepper.
Aye.
I think that concludes.
Great. So that is adopted. So then the next thing is Brandy had also sent out the meeting minutes from the June 16th meeting. Were there any comments or changes on that? I didn't see anything, but
I had a double held at the beginning that I removed
okay.
when I started sharing this morning.
Got it. If there are no changes, then can I get a motion to adopt the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Scott, okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sure, Brian Vella, second.
Yeah, I think Jeff, and we'll do, not to exclude you, Brian, but Jeff Fox, I think, seconded as well.
Great, okay, good, thank you.
All right,
Okay.
and Brandy, we'll have to do roll call one more time.
Yeah. Ken Ball,
Yes.
Julianne,
Aye.
Ronnie Smith,
Yes.
Tom DePonte,
Yes,
Craig Piercy,
Yes.
Mary Newmar,
Yes.
Randy Heflin,
Yes.
Gary Tepper,
Aye.
Brian Bella,
Yes.
okay, I think that makes it pass.
great. So the other thing, Brandy had sent out the asset inventory. I know Jeff Fox had provided an update to that. But Craig, maybe for your benefit, we maintain a asset inventory for the nuclear industry and academic community in Virginia. We send it out with every meeting. So as a ANS representative, I think it's always helpful. You have a broader view sometimes of changes that may have happened, especially for organizations that aren't on VNECA. So if you see something in the asset inventory, please provide that comment so we can maintain that list as up to date as possible. Were there any other changes or updates that folks saw that we needed to make to the asset inventory? Okay. I'm going to have to prioritize the nuclear news section at some point because there's so much news, to be honest, that it's coming fast and furious. Although I have to say, fewer announcements because the government is shut down in DC, not the Virginia government, but the DC government is preventing some of the administration from making announcements. But there's a lot of stuff going on. I think, Josh touched on a lot of what's going on out there. I just saw this morning, TerraPower has received their EIS approval from the NRC, which is great. So that project I know is moving along. I think X Energy is kind of on the same trajectory. So a lot of really good news going on. But are there any updates from members? Ken, I thought you came off mute. I know you all have had a great announcement event with NewScale. Was there anything else?
No, sorry, I left myself unmuted from the vote, but since you noticed that, yeah, thanks. I know a number of you were at the our event and in April in particular, and it was a great event, and we had a lot of we really enjoyed it. We actually we were planning on something like 600 people to show up, and we had like 1,200 people, so it was packed. And we had the ribbon cutting, and Governor Youngkin came with Director Davis for the ribbon cutting. It was kind of interesting for me on the ribbon cutting that they had this massive pair of like ceremonial scissors that are like 2 feet long, and they were real metal and they were real sharp. And after passing through the X-ray machine to make sure you don't have any, or the metal detector to make sure you don't have anything that could damage the governor, they hand you these scissors to hand to the governor. So that was kind of fun. But, I'll echo what was said earlier. The control room really turned out well. Our fuse building is really nice. And it's right in Arlington, right off of the Virginia Square Metro stop between Boston and Clarendon. And anytime any of you are in the area, and you want to come by and see the building and see the room or whatever, just let me know. Be happy to give you a tour, and I'll treat you to lunch if you come up. So yeah, so great event, and we're looking. What I'm trying to do as dean at George Mason is to use this to build momentum so that we can start doing what we can for workforce needs in particular. So I'm also happy to talk to anybody about how we can roll this in and leverage this to start getting our graduates interested in working in the nuclear industry. We're developing a new power engineering program. We're doing a lot of work with Dominion. Everyone knows about the data centers here in Northern Virginia. And so we're doing all kinds of new programming for concentrations and minors and majors that can help meet that workforce need for power, for energy. So happy to talk to anybody that might want to see, how you can work with us at George Mason University to do more to support nuclear industry. So thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Ken. That's great. Other announcements for the members? Well, I'll make two quick ones. One is just a thank you to Director Davis and Julianne. The governor was on hand in July for ribbon cutting in Lynchburg as we opened up the new building for Framatome that's going to house many engineers. It's kind of step one in the collaboration we have with the state. So and now they've broken ground on the training addition to the training center in the back there too. So really appreciate all the support from the Commonwealth and Virginia Energy on that. It was a great event. It was hot, but it was a good event. And then the only other thing is because it does sort of touch Virginia, Framatome delivered the first batch of fresh fuel to Palisades this week. So that will be loaded into the reactor soon as they start up that shutdown reactor and bring a reactor back online for the first time in a long time. So a lot of the engineering for that fuel happened in Lynchburg, and then it was manufactured out in Washington State. So that'll be a great milestone for the industry, and I think Crane will be right on its heels, which is also great. So anything else from the group before we go to public comment? Okay, so I think unless there's a need, this will be our final meeting of 2025, correct, Brandy? So unless something comes up, but we will look at Q1. Oh, April, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to go back real quick on the inventory list. Brandy, I'll work with you, but we need to add the community college programs to that as well. CVCC should be on there with their program, and a couple of others as well.
Okay.
Great. So we will look at probably putting a doodle poll out for, I think we should probably look maybe early January, or late January, but we'll look at some options, and Brandy can send out the poll for the first meeting of 2026. We'll kind of see how we can work that around the legislature and all that. But one of I think the key activities for next year, using the strategic plan as we will all remember, gosh, almost 4 years ago now, I guess a little less, but I think a lot of this momentum for that the governor has led started with the energy plan, at the first year of this Governor Youngkin's term. So there'll be an update coming to that. I'm sorry, April, I know, and everybody else working on it. But there'll be another energy plan. And I think, we have a lot of the great tools to provide input into that. And that'll be a key activity for next year. But yes, we'll send out a poll for early in Q1 for the next meeting.
So Tom, just to clarify on the meeting, you're targeting late January, early February for the meeting?
I think that makes sense, but let's put out a doodle poll to see. I know that's a busy time of year for a lot of folks, so we may have to push it, a little later into Q1, especially with the session going on. But let's see how schedules look.
Okay, so what I will do, and I need all of you to be on the lookout, is in order to, this is going to be in person, I assume. So
Yep.
for that, I would like to send out a doodle poll in early December. And I will try and target those dates so that I can lock down a meeting space early on. So just be on the lookout for it, and please participate to the best of your ability, because you're participating in that poll allows me to ensure that we have a quorum and I can secure a date a lot earlier with your attention to it.
And Brandy,
Brandy,
I know you know this, but if you could focus on Mondays or Fridays, it's a little easier for me during that time. I'm sorry, but just Wednesdays or Thursdays would be really difficult for me to attend.
Okay. Thank
As
you
you
for
know,
that,
the legislature.
Yeah.
And I would also like to suggest, let's try to focus on maybe the meetings at around 90 minutes as opposed to 2 hours. That might give a little more flexibility on
Okay.
scheduling. I think we usually keep to that time frame.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do we have any public comments today? We can open that up. If you can raise your hand and come off mute if there's anybody from the public that would like to make comments. Okay, not seeing any. Are there any other comments for the good of the order before we can wrap up for the day? Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Craig, welcome again. Thank you for serving, and we will see everybody in the new year.
Thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.